Hello Fanatics! With the end of 2018, we're doing our annual year in review. And while we did our top 10 movies of 2018, let's look at the worst 10 movies of 2018. Now again, this list is going to be entirely subjective, meaning that it's not going to necessarily be our worst reviewed films, but just the ones that we looked back at and realized that they're just a steaming pile of First off, let's start off with our honorable mentions. They are The Week Of, Colette, 7 Days in Entebbe, Like Father, and The Cloverfield Paradox. At number 10, we have The Nutcracker in the Four Realms. This movie was garbage. Let's be real. It's a really bad version of Alice in Wonderland meets Narnia. The characters are completely underwhelming. The Nutcracker is basically forgettable and non-existent in this movie. The only entertaining thing is Keira Knightley, and even her voice is a little bit off. The world that they bring you to, yes, it's magical and it's great, but the story that they build around it and the world that they've built within the visuals is kind of underwhelming too. So in the end, it's underwhelming. At number 9, we have Juliet Naked. This was a film that I really wanted to like because I like the cast. Rose Byrne, Chris O'Dowd, Ethan Hawke, everyone's great in films that they've done in the past. But this, it felt like nothing. There was nothing going on. It had no drama, it had no emotion, it had no comedy, it was just kind of there. And I felt like for 2 hours I was just sitting there watching a screen that had nothing going on. It's like watching, if you were to turn on this movie and turn on The Fireplace on Netflix, you get the same feeling after the end, although maybe not the same magical Christmassy holiday feeling of watching the fire and having the atmosphere of that. Instead, this, you get the feeling of, well, your biggest idols might not be who you think they are. But other than that, like, eh. At number 8, we have our first Netflix film, and that is Father of the Year. This movie is what I expected, but at the same time, still disappointing and terrible. It had a few funny moments, and that's when David Spade was able to do David Spade things. But other than that, it didn't really have much. And unfortunately, it needed to have a little bit more than it actually had in order to be an entertaining movie. But it, again, was a movie made along the lines of Adam Sandler's production company working with Netflix, so with the track record of those, we expected this. At number 7 is our second Netflix movie, and that is Legacy of a White-Tailed Deer Hunter. This movie was so weird, so weird. I mean, Josh Brolin has done so many great things this year. He was in Infinity War, he was in Deadpool 2, and then you have this. And I just looked at it and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it's not like he needed an extra paycheck, so maybe he did enjoy the story, and maybe there was a story there to be had, but it didn't really feel like anything happened in the end, and it was just, it could have been so much better. The first 15 minutes show the potential of the story, and then the next hour or so just completely throw that out the window and do things that make it a boring film. At number 6, we have our third Netflix film, See a Trend? And that's Extinction. I really wanted to like this sci-fi thriller, as it stars Michael Pena, Lizzie Kaplan, and Mike Colter, 3 actors who have been on the rise. But the story was just terrible, and in turn the characters were bad, and it felt like all of them were phoning in their roles. I mean, Michael Pena felt like he didn't care about this story at all, and to be honest, who can blame him? I mean, the story has a great sci-fi concept, but it was just executed so poorly. And I feel like if this film had been marketed better and had a bigger budget and done by another company, I think that it could have been better. But unfortunately, it was stuck to a tight budget on Netflix, and because of that, it shows. At number 5, we have Submergence. This was a god-awful film. They try to do a love story and completely screw it up every which way. It's supposed to be a story where 2 people from 2 completely different worlds meet each other for a weekend, fall in love, and then go their separate ways, and then constantly think about each other to like help them through their situations. Unfortunately, there's not enough time spent with them together to make us really care about how they feel about each other once they've gone their separate ways. And the separate ways stories are really boring. There's not much going on. It's supposed to be a drama, but there's no dramatic moments that really hit their marks. And in the end, it's only really watchable for the main characters, in the sense of, if you like Alicia Vikander or James McAvoy, you'll like watching them on screen for 2 hours. At number 4, we have our 4th Netflix movie, and that is Tau. It was a god-awful sci-fi. In fact, it wanted to be Ex Machina, but instead it's the D version of Ex Machina, as it takes everything that Alex Garland's beautiful and very layered sci-fi does and throws it out the window just for some very basic and simplistic sci-fi themes. The acting is abysmal, the sci-fi CGI is terrible, the monsters look stupid, the robots, and it felt like Gary Oldman really phoned in his performance too when he was voice acting, which is really weird because you can do whatever you want with that, and he just seemed to be very stern, very stoic, but then at the same time there's stoically entertaining and stoically dreadful, and I found that he was the latter in this film. So in the end, Tau was a terrible sci-fi. At number 3, we have the merciful end to this franchise, and that is 50 Shades Freed. I hated the first two, I hate the third one. I didn't want to see it, but I knew it was going to be on this list, so I watched it anyways. My god, it was awful. Hate everything about it. That's all I have to say. Surprised it's not number 1, but there were terrible movies that somehow surpassed it. At number 2 is one of those terrible movies, and it's the 5th film from Netflix, and that is The Titan. This film takes sci-fi and shits on it. It shits on sci-fi. I can't believe that I had seen such a bad sci-fi movie. Like, you expect that from B-rate sci-fi movies, but those ones are still so horribly bad that they're entertaining. This one, you can't say that. It goes so far off the deep end that you hate it. It has the promise, it has the premise, and it has the concept that you want. It starts off great, phenomenal. Sam Worthington, you think that it's gonna go somewhere. Tom Wilkinson's in this movie, so you actually think that it has a good cast, and then all of a sudden it just shits itself. It just goes, you know what, we're done, we're gonna put this into a thing online, and we're gonna ask it what should be next, and then they just used whatever words came up in the predictive text and hoped that something came out. And I mean, it's coherent, but it's crap. And the ending is so anticlimactic and infuriating that this movie is one that I wish that I could go on Netflix and tell it to hide it from my Netflix because it was so bad. Coming in at number 1 is one that somehow manages to infuriate me more than The Titan, and that is the 1517 Train to Paris. Oh my god, this is a poop of a movie. It is god awful. It is terrible. It is the shittiest movie of the year because Clint Eastwood has gone off his rocker in this one. He has been a great director in the past, but for some reason he decides that he's gonna have 2 storylines in this movie. He's gonna have the storyline of the characters when they're younger and when they're kind of dealing with their stuff and when they go into the army, and then he's gonna have the actual situation on the train. And this could have worked. However, unfortunately, Jenna Fisher is the only great part about the sequences in the past. Everything else, boring as shit. In the future, he decides to get the actual people that stopped this thing, the actual soldiers that stopped the terrorist attack, to be the actors in this movie. And then when they decided that they wanted to be going to acting classes and actually learn how to do some things and have like a basis and a foundation to actually act upon, he went, no, I want this to be real. I want this to be realistic. Act the way that you would have in this situation. And it turns into crap. Because recreating that situation does not bring the same adrenaline to these guys. They know they're still acting. There's cameras around them. It's not real. And so because of that, these guys just... It would have been a lot better if they actually used actors for these roles. And I get the integrity of Clint Eastwood wanting to do this in his decision, but it just faltered and it made this heaping pile of shit that this movie is. And I'm really hoping that with that, he realizes that, like, he had his falters in American Sniper with the baby and everything, and this is the next step. So I'm really hoping that he corrects his ways, and the third one is just not even... I don't want it to be farther from this because this is already off the deep end. And there you have it. There's our worst 10 films of 2018. Do you agree or disagree with our list? Think we might have missed a film or put them in the wrong order? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Dylan Phillips, and thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Check out our latest year in review video where we recap the top 10 films of 2018. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. And until next time, Fanatics, keep it real.